Now, we start looking at what impact the program has on participants. And again, this is the only question we have to, that asks impact directly in terms of outlook. So compared to the time before you start working with the Older Worker Program, how would you rate your outlook on life? And you can see then the 5-point scale. Again, remember the sample, national sample, 25,000 participants. So based on the responses, almost 7 out of every 10 reported having a more positive outlook on life as a result of their participation. And almost 9 out of every 10 rated their health as the same or better. Now you can start looking at, because we have all this background information in terms of the participant characteristics, you can start to look at, well, do some kinds of people have a more positive experience in CSEP rather than others? So for example, do more educated older people who are eligible for CSEP, is their experience different than those that have less education? And I'm going to look, I'll be reviewing some of these things. So here are some of the findings. Women are generally more positive about their experience than men, but no gender differences seem to show up in regard to the outlook on life. Older and less educated persons are generally more positive about their experience in the program than their younger, better educated peers. 75% of the participants still in the program are a little or much more positive about life, but only 67% of exiters feel the same way. So those that are in the program, it's interesting. So now we're looking at how people feel after they've left the program versus those that are still in the program. No difference in perceived benefit exists between those who exited without a job and those who exited with a job. Now, this is where you start thinking again about what are the implications of a labor department running a program in which the participants who leave the program seem to be less happy than those that stay in the program. You could see some of the tensions, and therefore those of you who run CSEP programs, you know what I'm talking about. You have participants that really don't want to leave. And at a time when there are growing numbers of people who are eligible, and although there have been increases in the appropriations for CSEP for the last 3 years now in a row, with the aging baby boomers, this is going to be an interesting public policy question. What do we do next? Well, just editorial comment, maybe getting out of Iraq might help, but that'll be the last comment I'll make on that. A large part of the difference in benefit ratings between those still in the program and those who exited for employment is related to the lower ratings for those working in the for-profit sector. So again, this is a really interesting question. To me, it just raises even more questions. It doesn't answer anything. But again, in many ways, it's not surprising because as most of you know, the community service experience, the community service employment has to be in the nonprofit or the public sector. But also there's a lot of pressure to prepare older people for jobs in the for-profit sector, in the increasing service sector in particular. And the difference in ratings is not related to how much people make when they leave the program, either the average wage or the percent of people working full or part-time. Again, there's this tension between, if it's an aging program and we're all about improving well-being and rather than independence, rather than just placing people into a job, again, it creates a lot of questions for those of us that are thinking both in terms of how to run the best program, but also even more when we're thinking about what are the right public policies here. So, like anything we do, this research that these findings I'm reporting to you was based on additional analysis that Senior Service America paid for we asked Charter Oak, that has the responsibility for this data, to do these additional analyses beyond what they were reporting to the Labor Department. And certainly we'll be able to give you copies of the report that they gave us, and we're continuing to pay them to do a supplementary research on the next body of data that is being collected now, isn't it? But of course, like any good researcher, any good consultant, whenever they give you a report, they say, well, here's some additional findings, but here's some more research you could do that we'd be more than happy to do for you. But again, I think very useful stuff in addition to being self-serving. And everyone who knows, Bennett Pudlin and Barry Goff, you know that they would never be self-serving. Suggestions for additional research. What are the needs of older people that they see the CSEP program fulfilling? How do expectations change from before older persons enter the program through the time they are in the program to when they leave the program? Again, looking at because as you know, participants can stay in right now, the participants in CSEP stay on an average 2 years. And there's now, for the first time with the reauthorization, a cap of 4 years, unless you meet certain criteria. Can pre-program expectations be changed by program staff in a way that allows older Americans to experience more benefit from the program? How is this a model of changing needs and expectations that can be applied to other areas of community service and employment activity for older Americans, not just CSEP? Are factors such as job stress or the nature of the work in attracting retirees back to the workforce or keeping current older employees in the workforce? What, if any, benefits do older people gain from CSEP participation long term? So again, this is the little bit we're collecting here is just a little snapshot. And it'd be great to have longitudinal research, but at least at this point, I don't think anyone's proposing that. Can the perceived disadvantages of private sector employment, that is, employment in the private for-profit sector, be mitigated by better or different community service assignments? So you can think of jobs that are equivalent in the private sector, for-profit sector, and also found in the nonprofit sector. Maybe there's something we can be doing so that people see how one is transferable, and also prepare them that, okay, you've been a clerk in a nonprofit sector for a while. If you get a job in a for-profit company, there are maybe other kinds of things that are going to be slightly different, so people then are not caught by surprise. What can private sector employers learn from the positive aspects of community service employment as perceived by participants? Are activities in community service employment inherently more satisfying to older Americans than work in the commercial or profit-making sectors? Again, when you think about what's happening in these large initiatives such as the Purpose Prize or Mark Friedman's work on his latest book, Encore, the call for baby boomers to want to give back to their community and improve the community, the call to service, sort of hearkening back on JFK. Maybe that's what's happening here as well, that the low-income older people in CSEP, they're in CSEP because they have chosen to work to improve their community as opposed to working at fast food or retail or the service sector.